Matt Lenihan for Boxing Social in association with William Hill, Empire Fight Store. Always a pleasure to be joined by Dave Coldwell. Dave, before we kick off, how's things? I know I've sort of interrupted your training there a little bit, but appreciate it. How's things? All good?
No, all good, mate. All good. I'm just sat in a car park. My little boy's going through his warm-ups before his football session. So yeah, I've got about 20 minutes before he gets going.
No worries, bud. Well, look, I think obvious place to start. Joe Joyce, Zhilei Zhang, the rematch. I was there on Saturday. Brutal, devastating performance from Zhilei Zhang, and proved that he's a world-class heavyweight. The shots he threw, he adjusted to Joyce's changes as well in there. Just can I get your sort of initial reaction as to what happened?
Shocking ending, wasn't it? I always feel as though, these giants, these massive heavyweights, when they go down, it's always a bit shocking. But to go face first and then to still get up, that tells you what that man's made of. He's built a career on being very, very tough, having an unbelievable chin and his work rate as well. But unfortunately, if your career's just built on, your reputation is built on the ability to take shots, sooner or later that capacity to take punishment does start to wear a little bit thinner and start to wear out, a little bit like a battery draining. And the last two fights, you see that in Zhang, he's fighting a 20-stone heavyweight that can really, really punch himself. That's one. I know he's slow, but that's one thing that everybody knows that he can do is punch, and you saw the results of that.
Where do you rank Zhilei Zhang in this heavyweight mix? I think people coming out saying they believe he's top four. Where do you rank him? Definitely top five. Where do you put him?
Yeah, probably 5, 6. Yeah, about 5 or 6, something like that. I wouldn't say it's top four because you've got to think about who is top four. Obviously Fury's up there, Usyk's up there. Then you've got AJ, you've got Wilder. You can't, on the back of beating Joe Joyce twice, you can't say that he's a top 4 heavyweight. You can't say that he replaces Wilder and Wilder's achievements. I mean, I know we haven't seen much of Wilder lately, but by all intents and purposes, I think I look at Wilder now, the training footage and things. I think the work he's doing with Malik Scott, I think he looks like he's improving. I want to see it in the fight, but he seems to be getting to grips with what Malik's wanting him to do, and is looking more improved. The only guy that he's been beat by is Tyson Fury, so you can't really say, oh well, he's demote him any further than that really. AJ, former 2-time heavyweight champion with some great names on his record. Zhang's best win is Joe Joyce, I think. I know he beat Hrgovic, but Hrgovic beat him. But I know a lot of people thought that he beat Hrgovic. But then you go back a fight or two before that, and he looked terrible in a draw against a bit of a journeyman circuit sort of fighter. So let's not get carried away. I don't think he's top 4. I think he's one of the most dangerous heavyweights on the planet if he hits you, But he is still slow. He's still old and runs out of gas or has been known to run out of gas a little bit. I feel as though in the Joyce fight you didn't really see that because he could control the pace. He dictated. He hurt Joe again early, and so therefore, as well, coming off the first fight, when you're wary of a man's power, you're not in so much a rush to set a hot pace, and you're trying to be clever and trying to be a bit smart like Joe was trying to be. Not that I feel that suits his style, but that's what he was trying to be. That allowed Zhang not to have to work so hard. The work that he was putting out there was quality work, and so that allowed him to dictate his own pace. But I feel against the better heavyweights in the division, you're talking about top 4. Against those guys, I don't think he beats those guys.
In terms of Joe Joyce, he's given us so many interesting performances, I think, in his run, and he's always been marketed on this durability. I mean, I saw him take shots against Joseph, clean, flush, and his facial expressions didn't even move. He just carried on walking forward. But where do you see his future now? They've obviously at Queensbury still got Daniel Dubois, and I'm not sure where this appeal's going for Usyk. If that don't come off, Daniel's then in a situation where he'll need an opponent. Do you think after a bit of time off, that's probably one that they could run back?
I don't know. I mean, you'd probably say that they'd probably want to push that because they've always, listen, Joe Joyce beat Dubois, beat him in great fashion, but it was Dubois that was the one that was kind of like marketed and pushed into better opportunities quicker. That's because he's young. You know, you've got looking at it from a promoter's point of view, is, you know, what's that, a couple of years ago, so he was 36. Again, they're looking at that and saying, you know, where do they want to invest the money in? Somebody that's 36, 35, whatever age he was, or somebody that was like early to mid 20s, and it still has potential. Coming off for his loss against Usyk and Joe's loss there, where Joe looks like he's more vulnerable now. I think this is the thing: is once somebody that's intimidating in the fact that there's such a, you know you're in for an hard night work with Joe Joyce. He can take every shot. His engine's incredible. Who wants to fight him unless they have to? So everybody like looks for a way to avoid that kind of fighter because he's very effective at what he's doing. Once all of a sudden he doesn't have that aura about himself, then people are going to look and think, that's a good fight for me because I can look good against him, or that's a good fight for my fighter. And that can open up opportunities. But in terms of, does Joe Joyce want to do that? I saw Frank Warren get a bit of shit because he said Joe might retire. I know, listen, promoters, they only bother about the winners. That's the nature of the beast, you know. So you can be, I've seen it with my fighters, you know, when they're winning and they produce an unbelievable night for the promoter and for everybody and the fans, they're the best thing since sliced bread. The very next fight they might get beat and then they don't give a fuck about them. That's what they are. But I think what Frank was saying there, basically, I mean, there's not a lot wrong in saying that because Joe Joyce might want to retire at 38 years old after being so close at getting a world title shot. He's got to ask himself, can I put the same effort in, the same sacrifices in that the sport requires? Do I want to do all that to try and come back and claw my way back to the top, or just to be fed to be used as a name for another one of these prospects that are coming through, or a Daniel Dubois to get his revenge? Because everything will be favoured in Dubois' favour. Joyce will be the guy that's there for Dubois if that fight happens. So when Frank's saying he might retire, he might choose to retire, but then that's down to him. That's his choice.
Yeah, completely agree. I didn't think there were too much wrong with Frank's comments in relation to retirement. Joe's had the career he's had. He's sort of started the professional career late. He's 38. He's taken a lot of shots as well. And like I said, it is a long way back when you look at where the belts are as well at the minute, isn't it?
I think, you see, the thing is as well, what you've got to take into account if you're Joe and people around him is we get to see. So you and me, we've watched Joe Joyce's fights unfold, watched him every fight he has. Doesn't matter the level of opposition, apart from the guys that he's bowled over in a few seconds or whatever. Every fight he's had, whether they're well past it, whether they're in there just not doing much, when they sling, they land. And he's taking shots all the way through. Takam, was it Stavern? People like that. There was like ding dongs, plenty of shots landing on Joe Joyce's head. Then the Parker fight and so on and so on. We see him on fight night. Don't forget, if he's getting it like that on fight night, what do you think's happening in sparring? What do you think happened all the way through the amateurs in sparring? What do you think is happening in each one of his fight camps for as a pro? And the quality of sparring they've been having, and better fights for the better sparring partners for the better fights. How many times is he getting it in there? Because it's not like he's slipping and ducking and rolling and being elusive, So you're talking about an accumulation of a lot of hammer that maybe now is showing an effect now. That tough man and the ability to absorb everything. People just banking on him being able to take everything. He's gonna beat him because he can take the shots. Right now we're looking like he's not the man that can take those sort of shots, because it's not like Zhang just caught him one shot and just cleaned his lights out and that was it. He was getting hurt before that. He was hurt numerous times in the first fight. So he's showing signs of vulnerability, is what I'm saying. So it's a dangerous period of his career. He's got to make a decision that's right for him, because going forward now, people are going to fancy it, but also that means his biggest asset is now not really an asset. So what is he left with? Because he's certainly not been. I mean, he tried to be cute and tried to be a bit smart. He's low left hand and trying to box like that behind a shoulder. I mean, that he isn't that kind of fighter. So how much further he's going to go? So again, it may be a case where he thinks, you know what, I've had a great career. I might want to call it a day now. But the people around him have got to make those decisions as well, or just to advise him. A fighter will always make the decision, but sometimes they don't want to admit it, even though they want to, even though they know what the answer is. Maybe they don't want to admit it.
Yeah. Well, let me just get your thoughts on another matter. Same evening, there was the return of Conor Benn on an undercard in Orlando. What's your sort of take on this? Because obviously there's still that controversy around it, and we keep hearing the words "cleared to fight." But there's still an appeal going on by, I believe, the British Boxing Board of Control. So he was clear to fight. A suspension was lifted. He was able to fight in Orlando, but there's still this big, I feel like a big cloud that's still sort of over this situation. What's your take on it?
So I don't know. It's dragged on for that long. There's that many. We don't know the facts. That there's all the confidentiality. Nothing's been made public. All we know is he's cleared to fight. He's cleared to fight elsewhere, but not in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
He's not cleared to fight in the UK. So yes, he's cleared to fight elsewhere. Somebody asked me, is it the right thing? It's the right thing for Conor Benn for him to have boxed the other night.
Yeah.
It's not the right thing. It's not the right thing in terms of how our sport looks and what does this mean for drug testing results. What does it mean? Because if you're Conor Benn and you can fight elsewhere and you're waiting for this appeal from the board as well, the board needs to open the mouths. The board is so quiet on it. So we don't know why. So they're appealing, but when is the appeal going to be? What are they appealing on? What's the grounds? Because what have they been made aware of that's lifted the UCAD suspension that they're not happy with? What is it? So then at least if the board are letting people know on their side of things, as well as Conor and Eddie and everybody on their side of things, all they keep saying is cleared. Of course it's cleared because that's why he's allowed to box, but he's not cleared to box over here. Why? So there's speculation, it's jurisdiction, it's this, it's that, but nobody knows apart from these parties that are involved. So it's very hard to say. But is it the right thing for Conor Benn to have boxed on Saturday night? For Conor Benn, yeah, because he's going to think, I'm not banned to box everywhere else. I've waited 18 months, or I'm, obviously not waited, but I've not been able to box 18 months. But now I can box. Fuck it, I'm going to box. Because if it's the board that are dragging the reels on getting this appeal done, then you can see why he's going to do it. So for him and his career, yes, it's the right thing. For everybody else, and for how this sport looks, and for the board, and for me as a coach, who, if it was my fighter that was fighting somebody and they failed a drugs test, I want to know why is he being allowed to box again when it's failed drug tests? Because at the end of the day, all we know is that it failed 2 drugs tests. We don't know the rest of the ins and outs of this bullshit that's been dragging on for so long. And so when Eddie's being asked, and he's being interviewed, and he's being, obviously I can see from his point of view, he's getting ratty, but they're getting ratty with everybody else being pissed off because all we're being told is clear to box, but we're not being told that he's proven that what we want to know is, has he been proven that this clomiphene was found in was actually, it was contaminated, or it was something else? What is the reason that he's like cleared? And I think that's the frustrating thing. And I'm like just lost in it. And I kind of think, well, it just makes the whole testing thing look like shit. because Canelo got done for clenbuterol, I think.
Yeah.
Blamed it on me. Okay, then they found out that it's known that there's clenbuterol in Mexican beef. And I believe he did an hair follicle test.
He did.
And a hair follicle test is the best test from what I've been told. I'm not an expert, so somebody out there might be able to correct me. But from what I got told, is he had an hair follicle test that literally proves you that no, you've not been taking sustained use of PEDs. Has Conor Benn had a hair follicle test, or is that why he shaved his head and is all smooth and clean because he's got no hairs now? I don't know, but if there's a way like that, I might be wrong, but if there's a way like that to then clear and say, well, you've never had this, you've never had that, then fair enough. It's that if that's what's come out and is cleared, but there's always an excuse. There's I heard, but then it depends on what side you're on. I heard Frank Warren talk about Zolani Tete. Well, I had one of our fighters, Tete, he failed his drug test and he's got a 4 year. When you had him, when you signed him, you weren't keeping him active, were you? So it's not the same thing. Conor Benn is one of Eddie's prime time golden boy guys. Zolani Tete is a guy that's in another country that you weren't bothered about, and then you brought him up hoping that somebody's going to beat, that Jason Cunningham's going to beat him or whatever, finish off the story, fails his drug test, gets done. Fuck off, mate. You're not having you sort that out yourself, son. He's not got the money and the backing that Conor Benn's got. So basically what it's saying is if you've got shitloads of money or you've got people that will look after you, and that turns to provide for a good defense and some top lawyers that can look at every little aspect of the law and then think, right, there you go. We can say this. I don't know. So we can say this, we can say that, blah. Then you've got more of a chance. And so really the drug testing is bollocks. I'm frustrated with it. And I don't know the answers because it's above my job. It's above my pay grade. It's what I concern myself with training my fighters. But from somebody who works in a sports point of view, it's not good because you can fail a test and just crack on, say it's this, say it's that. Because there is a problem, and I do believe there is a problem with food because we don't know what these people are putting in food. Forget about supplements for a minute. In food, the amount of food I look into a lot of stuff about general health and about what things that we put into his bodies, not on a PED point of view, but the amount of chemicals and additives that getting put into food, you don't know, and it's quite a scary thing. So again, this whole thing with the testing side of things, there is a knock-on effect on that. So I don't know what the solution is, but all I know is that it's not a great look.
I think the solution, I know we keep sort of harping on about it, and everyone feels like they're going around in circles, fighters, trainers, media, whoever, is always that old adage of, like, football, you have FIFA, you fail a drugs test, you seem even miss one. Taking 2 years, kicking a ball, not punching someone clean in the head. So for me, it's always a case of it's a strange sport, and it's the one that is the most deadly as well. So something needs to happen at some point. But my feeling is, I think
that's the thing. What you're saying there, in football, you've got a powerful organisation that'll put things in place, and then if you fail, they will then say, right, you're banned for X, or this. I think there's 2 players. I think it's 2 players from each team every game get tested.
Yeah,
but they've got money, but boxing hasn't got that kind of money. But in that case, then there's got to be money made available. I mean, the board keep putting up license fees and things like that, but then they've got no money, and I see Eddie's getting stick because all these fighters are failing drug tests, but he's testing more. He's putting, if you're testing more and you're going out there and getting something beyond UCAD, you can do. I'm not saying UCAD over order. UCAD there, yeah, great. But beyond UCAD, if you're paying for extra, why is that a bad thing? You're actually doing something, trying to catch the guy. Listen, I don't agree with how we handled the Conor Benn thing, but he's casting a bigger net out there to catch as many people as he can by paying for more tests. Every promoter can do that if they want, but the costs of running the shows makes them look at it and think, fuck that, can't afford it because we're just about to break even, or we're going to blow money because we want to make this fight. I don't know what the answer is, but I do think that there needs to be one sort of unified sort of voice on punishments, on what is on the ban list and what isn't on the ban list.
One list. It's not crack on, because we've had that question before about what's okay on here is not, and it's so that's that side of it's just nonsense. Look, a couple of positive things before we go, because I know that sort of thing rages on a bit. We've got this weekend Canelo Alvarez, Jermell Charlo. Jermell's banging up in weight. Canelo Alvarez, pound for pound, one of the best. So it's an interesting fight, and we're going to see what we're going to see.
Good fight, very good fight.
Make of it just quickly.
So originally when it was made, I thought, oh, it's a little Charlo. I mean, he's got to move up 2 divisions. And then I saw him, when they faced off, I thought, flipping it. And then you realize that Charlo's probably one of these, a lot of American fighters. We went over sparring and people saying, oh, he's a featherweight. And he's sparring at welterweight. And it's like, whoa, So maybe he's one of these guys that is actually walking around massive, huge, and has to boil down to the 154 limit. So the 2 division jump, does it make that much of a difference? Maybe it's a little bit in between. Maybe he's a natural middleweight. Let's say he's a natural middleweight. If he's a natural middleweight and he's going up to super middleweight, Canelo's not a light heavyweight. And he's big, thick set as a super middleweight, but really he's probably, if he got rid of some of that muscle bound, he's probably a genuine middleweight that's been at super middleweight. You know what I mean? Maybe. He's got the power, he's got a 1-punch power, but I feel so since the Kovalev fight, he seems to be loading up, not much trunk movement like he used to have, just hands up looking to catch counter, sinking in single shots. Let's not forget, if Kovalev, and it was an old Kovalev, if you hadn't caught up with Kovalev in the 10th round or whatever it was, he was behind in that fight. Kovalev's jab was beating him. He was behind that fight. And I feel as though each fight since is kind of, he's showing where it's not so much slowing down, but I feel as though he's chosen to bank on just being power-based. And I think that's taken a lot away from him. But then you have to think as well, look at the amount of fights he has had. He's fought at top level, the amount of camps, the amount of wear and tear. Amiri's getting injuries a lot in camps these days. So maybe he is slowing down. So does that give Charlo an opportunity? I think timing is everything in sport. And the timing might favor Charlo to give him more of an opportunity. Do I think Charlo's disciplined enough to do what Bivol was so disciplined in what he did? He knows what he's good at. He boxed, he kept it in his range, he moved his feet, kept it in his range. He didn't allow Canelo to set himself and to trap him because he was disciplined. I don't know if Charlo's exciting. He loves to have a terror. He loves his right hand, and he's got a good right hand, but he'll take shots. And I think maybe that'll be his downfall. I don't think he's particularly got the skill set that could just box. I feel he has to punch hard enough to get the respect of Canelo to then maybe settle him a little bit. I think it's a good fight. It is a good fight, but I think Canelo might wear him down because, again, you think about the size of it, but then when you saw Callum Smith stand next to Canelo, but it's that pressure he puts on him straight away. He negated that straight away. So I don't know. I think Canelo wins the fight, but I think it could be a good fight for a few rounds, and then maybe like the last third of the fight, I think Canelo gets to him.
And finally, as well, one that I know you'll have a huge interest in, Josh Warrington, Leigh Wood. We spoke about it a while back, I think, but it's getting nearer now.
Leigh Wood, Josh Warrington.
Say again?
Leigh Wood, Josh Warrington.
Yeah, Leigh Wood, Josh Warrington. Cannot wait.
I can't wait for that one. That is such a good fight. And again, you've obviously, I want Leigh to win. And I think Leigh's got the boxing ability and the power to win this fight. But then I look at Josh and I think wear and tear. I don't think he's the same fighter these days. But I also think he's just an hard bastard and he makes it rough. And if he can get on the inside of Leigh, and listen, let's be real, he's very good with that head, right? You can say what you want, but he's very good with that. But just make Leigh uncomfortable on his chest and bump in, and taking him out of his rhythm. Then you're like, well, I don't know. It could maul him a little bit. But I just think, yes, Leigh's got momentum. I think, but the other side of the coin is, I think if it gets hard, because Leigh, I remember when Leigh, because I managed Leigh, and Leigh's ambition was to become British champion, and that was his thing, to become British champion. And I feel as though you become British champion, and everything else is a bonus. You end up being world champion, and then 2-time world champion. It's like, fucking hell, it's just going. And at that age, it's like maybe the wear and tear, and maybe you start thinking about an exit. And how much? Listen, they'll want to win the fight 100%. But I don't know if it becomes really horrible and grueling again after coming through the Conlan fight. Does he want another fight like that? You don't know with people, when they get to a certain stage where they've got that comfortable money and where life's changed completely. You don't know how much can they go through that how many times they can go through the well. Can they go through all that again? He's had Laura, he took some shots against Laura. I don't know, but I do fancy Leigh Wood. I just think his intelligence. I think he's got a good team around him. Ben Davison's an exceptional coach. I think Leigh wins the fight, but listen, it's one of those. I can't wait for it.
I have to say, it's one I'm very much looking forward to. If we see anything like his last couple of fights, Leigh, it's going to be exciting. So, look, Dave, I'll let you get off. I can see training happening in the background in this straight through the thing. I'll let you get to it, but I appreciate you jumping on and give us some of your time as always. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks, mate. Nice one.